Hi, folks. Noonie Noon, your boy, once again coming to you. I got my famous brother here, legend Joseph Keys, aka Joe Rock. Most of you know him from knocking boots loose. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. But I'm gonna let him come on and give you his little bio and speak about a topic I'm sure you guys are gonna be interested in. So, without further ado, Joe Rock.
Right. Greetings, my brothers and sisters out there. Today I'm going to explain my platform that's titled Bring Democracy to Paterson. All right, so I have my whole introduction typed out, so I'm going to just read from it, and then I'm going to read two of the speeches. And by then, everybody should be up to speed to what's going down with this. So it says, my platform is that we want to bring democracy to Paterson. Democracy is the political system in the United States. Since democracy is the political system in the United States, then that suggests that democracy already exists in Paterson. If that's true, then why is it necessary to have a movement to bring democracy to Paterson? Let me explain. Democracy means the government is of the people, for the people, by the people, and the government will serve the people's interests. Now, we're looking to answer why it is necessary to have a movement to bring democracy to Paterson. Democracy has an arch nemesis, and it is called corporate imperialism. Corporate imperialism means the government is of the corporations, for the corporations, by the corporations, and will serve the corporation's interests. This circumstance is why it is necessary to have a movement to bring democracy to Paterson, because corporate imperialism and not democracy is what exists in the United States. It is instructive to note that corporate imperialism is one of the many systems of oppression that we live under in the United States. Oppression and systems are significant. I will read an excerpt from one of the speeches that enumerate 15 different systems of oppression that we live under. There are more than 20 systems of oppression, meaning that life in the United States is a battle between people versus systems of oppression. The systems of oppression recruit people and use them to oppress one another.
Wow.
The only remedy the people have to combat that process is to unite. And that is because the main objective of oppression is divide and conquer. The speeches I write regarding bringing democracy to Paterson explain those dynamics.
Wow. So Joe, it's safe. Sorry about that noise, folks. So Joe, it's safe to say that these systems of oppression pretty much can change a person's point of view or their lifestyle if you let it.
Absolutely. It controls. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to explain the dynamics, because systems all have values. There are values to every system. The values of the economic, okay, so we have to introduce the economic system in the United States, and that's capitalism, materialism. Now, let me go back. Since we get there, I was moving.
Now,
I'll go to the speech, but let me explain a little more about capitalism and materialism. Let's go sent. And here.
Take your time, brother.
Watch
This
this. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. It says here, understanding the central transmission of the values of capitalism, materialism, and their definition of reality and their definition of success. Now, definition of materialism. A tendency to consider material possessions and physical comfort as more important than spiritual values. Now I'm showing right here, the opposite of materialism
I get it.
is spirituality. Here is the definition of spirituality: of relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. The spiritual values of life. Another definition: of a person not concerned with material values or pursuits. Now, this sets up, I don't know if we should go right into this, because
It's up to you,
part
brother.
of
Go ahead.
one of the aspects of Bring Democracy to Paterson, one of the things I want to accomplish is to take all the tools of oppression, right? So it's numerous tools
21.
of oppression. No. So you got more than 21 systems of
Wow,
oppression,
that's a
and
hell of a
every
lot.
system has
tools.
tools. One very famous tool of oppression
Wow,
is
we-
alienation. We discussed that. I told you
Yesterday,
about that the other day.
yeah.
So
I was
alienation
blown away.
is
when
when you alienate people. Famous. I use the most famous one.
Go ahead.
Nation of Islam back in the 60s.
Right.
They said the white man is the devil. So in doing that, that's alienation. So they alienating white people, and they're going to alienate all black people and others who associate with white people. And as you know, a lot of them are family. So now when that happens, the government is going to support the one who's practicing the tool of oppression, alienation. So the government was supporting the nation when they was doing that. And this is why, because they don't fear that you're going to be able to organize and mobilize people in large enough numbers to be a threat.
I see the point.
Because you alienating too many
So
people.
they on your
Now
side,
they're
man.
more afraid
Well,
when you look at what Malcolm X did.
Yeah.
Once he left and he stopped practicing that tool of oppression, alienation. The Black Panther Party, they picked up from where Malcolm X left off. And they never practiced alienation because they studied Malcolm and saw, oh, wow, this is the advances he made. And Earl Caldwell was a journalist, New York Post, I believe. So he had an assignment where he was with the Panthers, and Earl Caldwell said every rally he went to that the Panthers held, he said if it was 3,000 people there, 2,000, 2,500 was white.
Was white. Yeah.
So
that's
he
true
named
statement. Statement of truth and a true
a
statement.
few different rallies, and the percentages was like that. Now that is the real reason why the government labeled the Black Panther Party as the #1 threat to the national security, because they didn't alienate and they had the ability to organize and mobilize large numbers of people.
Yeah.
So now,
I hope you guys got that.
now watch.
I got that.
Now let's since I'm here, this is
Take your time.
one of the things I want to do
You
is
got the platform.
get the. So speaking again about these tools of oppression, that's how I said divide and conquer, right? Because you know the numbers, the 99%, that's the people, versus the 1%, that's the oppressors. How the hell can 1% dominate 99%? Divide and conquer. That's the only way.
That's the only way.
So, the goal in bringing democracy to Paterson is to take all those tools of oppression that they use to divide and conquer us, and we can use those same tools to unite us.
It's organized.
Because everything, Karl Marx says, everything is both positive and negative.
Yeah.
You could take anything, everything, and use it in a positive way, and you could take that same thing and use it negatively. Look at social media. Social media can be used, and this is another way to phrase it. Social media and other can be used as a tool of oppression. It can be used as a tool of oppression, but it also can be used as a tool against oppression. So it depends on how you. So one is positive, one is negative. So that's an example of how everything is both positive and negative. So go ahead.
Good. No,
All right. So now one of the tools that has divided us, the church the believers been divided against the non-believers. So one of my goals, as I said, every tool of oppression, I want to change it, reverse it. So since we talked about spirituality and materialism and capitalist systems, I mentioned that systems have values. All systems have values.
Right.
So now we're talking about the political system, the economic system of the United States is capitalism, materialism. Dr. Leonard Jeffries described the values of capitalism, materialism as the ICE, that acronym, the ICE. So the I is individualism. That's a value. All of us practice that. Competition. All of us practice that. Competition. And then exploitation. Exploitation is a value of capitalism. Exploitation means to take advantage of people, to deceive them, to use them. So those materialism values, again, right, is materialism values are, I'm going to introduce another concept now, is dehumanizing. Because it's the opposite of spirituality. Spirituality is having reverence for humanity, reverence for human life, worshiping humanity. That's spirituality. Materialism is the opposite of that. Materialism is dehumanizing, dehumanization. So, with the values of the ICE, meaning individualism, competition, exploitation, I always put the S there before the I, because everybody's in competition to be the super individual. Super individual. And we use exploitation. In the competition, we exploit each other. We use each other as ladders, because the competition is to climb up the social mobility ladder. That makes you the super individual. And I had to introduce another concept. Materialism means you use the scale. When you use the materialism scale, that means status and status symbols determines your self-worth. When you use the materialism scale, you believe that. And through practicing these values, I need to point out right here, this process happens unconsciously.
You don't even know.
Unconsciously. We're not aware that it's happening.
Yeah, I just want to interject this. I was never aware of all the oppressive systems. You talk about systemic systems, you talk about systemic racism, you talk about different stuff. But what I want to ask you, Mr. Keys, Professor Keys, because you are a college professor down at the college, the local college, PCC, what are some of the reactions to your students? Are they blown away like I was yesterday when I find out about the systems of oppression and how they interact and intertwine with the concept of what I thought was just two systems, which is 21. What are some of the questions that they asked you, and how was they blown away? I know they was blown away because I was blown away yesterday. I was blown away. And I know you guys, some of you guys who's following us, who really listening, are blown away. I already know it. So
yeah, absolutely. And so my approach to teaching is from a social justice activism approach. And what I mean by that is I dropped out of college 3 times when I was college age. I went twice to play football, once to play basketball. But I wasn't no student. I had no work study ethic. So after I dropped out the 3rd time, I was 21, and that was 1987, so 1988 was approaching, and Public Enemy came out playing them Malcolm X excerpts. And I said, who is that? What is he talking about? So I delved in and I found out. So then Malcolm X, through social justice activism, teaching, he made me interested in education.
Okay.
So from that point, I did 10 years of self-education from being motivated by Malcolm X. Now, this is the point. This is how I was going to connect to my students and what I do with them. Malcolm made me aware that I was African. You see the red, black, and green, African American. I ain't identified like most of our people. Y'all, you know yourself. Malcolm X used to say that. I refer to African Americans as closeted Africans, and it's no accident why it's like that. And that's one of the things that Malcolm X explained to me. Malcolm said, to the same degree that your understanding of and your attitude towards Africa becomes more positive, you'll see that your understanding of and your attitude towards yourself will also become more positive. So, learning from a social justice activist champion like Malcolm X got me inspired to want to learn, to educate myself. So I figure, now we know racism, Malcolm X, another thing he explained to me, racism, white supremacy is why I was not interested in education. Malcolm explained, they either didn't include you in none of the literature, or if they did include you in the literature, it was, my grandfather was a slave. He said, slavery don't move me. So that's the only thing they told about us, things that was not inspiring.
Before the colonies came.
Exactly, they told us no African history. So all right, I'm gonna explain another aspect. Malcolm explained, I told you we were closeted Africans. This is how Malcolm explained that they did that. He said, back in 1959, the European colonial powers had complete control over Africa. And having complete control over Africa, they control all the images of Africa and all the images they projected about Africa exactly was negative. He said it was so negative that we didn't want to have nothing to do with Africa, much less be called an African. He said, in hating Africa and hating the Africans, we ended up hating ourselves without even realizing it. Remember, unconscious conditioning again.
Right.
He said, because you can't hate the root of a tree and not end up hating the fruit of that tree. And we the fruit of that African tree. All right, so this is how this connects to my teaching approach. When I come to my students, the first day of class, I find out the ethnic background of every one of my students. And again, this is to combat racism, white supremacy, and another one, that's a system of oppression, the mightiest system of oppression, and it's involved in many of the other system of oppression. Colonialism, another system of oppression.
Yeah, that one was
Racism, white supremacy is prominent in that. And this one here is why I asked for all of their ethnic backgrounds, because we're all victims of that same system of oppression. That's colonialism, that's racism, white supremacy. So once I've learned all their backgrounds, then I do research from each of their backgrounds. And then I inject that into my lesson plan. Now, what I did first, agency, I'm gonna introduce another concept to you. Agency, right? Agency is your ability to act, to be proactive. So here's the example. I'm the professor now, Professor Keys. I read the book. The book doesn't have nothing about African history or African American history.
Go ahead,
African American history. Well, I had to inject that. Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois is the founding father of sociology in the United States. The first book we used was the second edition. They did not have him. They did not have him in the book. The third edition, that's what we're using now. They got maybe like a paragraph. Well, agency, I'm the professor. Well, we did a whole chapter on Dr. W.B. Du Bois. Part 1, Part 2. Next, this is sociology, right? So here come the African history being injected into it through agency, my agency as the professor. Sociology had its origin from a philosophers movement in Europe, right? Now, there's a book titled Stolen Legacy, George James. Stolen Legacy. Greek philosophy is a stolen Egyptian philosophy.
Wow.
There's another book I use, Dr. Malefi Kiti Asante, African Philosophers, from Imhotep to, I believe, Akhenaten. But it's all African philosophers. So in there, he lists by chronological order the African philosophers. And then you come all the way down, it begins 2500 BC, Imhotep, right? Then you go all the way down and you don't get to European, to Thales. Thales is the first European philosopher. He's 2,500 years later, 2,500 years after Imhotep. They call him Thales, the father of philosophy. That's nonsense. So European philosophers, that movement started sociology. So I injected this African history because philosophy began in Africa, as well as all the arts and sciences, okay? All the arts and sciences began in Africa. All that's in my lesson plan. From quotes from those two books. From those two, George James in his book, he said, stop quoting the Greek philosophers, Aristotle, Socrates,
all them cats.
Plato.
You know, it's ironic that you're saying this because I've spoken about some of these things in my videos.
Right.
But so I know it falls right in line, and it's true, man. It's a pleasure to have you, my brother. Listen, how can people get in touch with you, man? And how could what would you advice would you give the youth today? And I know you got a thing on student athletes. We can't cover that today. The ones that didn't make it, that go out to play these football, basketball, and baseball and get caught up in the system and wind up not in school. Professor Keys has some topics for you guys and some help, but not today. So I don't know if you want to continue on, wrap up how you want to do it.
I'm gonna
continue.
Look up.
There's no timetable.
I might have that speech. I should have that speech in
that's up to you.
Email.
It's up to you.
And I'm gonna look for it.
But how can people get in touch with you?
Okay, so I'm on Facebook under
because I'm sure they're gonna be hitting me up and want to know.
Malcolm Shabazz on Facebook.
Y'all hear that?
I think that's the only way, or if you want to come down to PCC. But I'm at, oh my goodness, how could I miss out on that opportunity? I'm at the city council meetings.
Every Tuesday. Right?
Every Tuesday night.
Okay. Always dropping science.
Yeah, and that's what I say, these Bring Democracy to Paterson speeches at the city council meeting. Mm-hmm. And so for the youth, I say
listen, you guys.
This brother, another one of my plans is to teach African studies at the church, because what I was saying, that one of the tools of oppression, when it got the believers and non-believers divided, I'm agnostic, but I'm a member of a church. Shout out to Reverend Dr. Randall Moses Lassiter. Get well, speedy and complete recovery to you, my brother. And I also, that's my spiritual father. So I have a spiritual father. That's Dr. Randall Moses Lassiter, Calvary Baptist Church. And I'm scheduled at some point to begin teaching African studies.
Wow.
There. Y'all remember Jeremiah Wright, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, when Barack, that used to be Barack minister. But Jeremiah Wright, I read, he was talking about his childhood, when him and his Jewish friends, hanging out, playing or whatever. And his Jewish friends were always, they had to leave at a certain time, and they had to go to the synagogue and learn Jewish history. So he got the idea. He said, "Wow, we don't have to beg in the schools to teach our kids our history. Yeah, we could teach it in the churches." So that's why I got that idea. And then I attend. I'm not a member at Rehoboth. I forget the whole name. Rehoboth Church of God, Rehoboth Baptist Church, but it's on North Main Street. And my spiritual mother is Pastor Linda Stansel. So hopefully
she related to Willie by any chance? Is they in that family?
You know who she was? Everybody know who she was.
Oh,
Stansel, she was a housing police officer. She was the black woman housing police officer that you always saw with the Smoot brothers. So remember everybody who remember the Smoot brothers, that black female cop that was rolling with them all the time, that's Professor Stansel. But you know what? Let me read this, because I talked about spirituality and materialism. They're opposites, right? And so this is the reason why, for my non-believer brothers and sisters, this is why going to the church and reading the Bible, it's beneficial to your life. And it's because of these two opposites, materialism and spirituality. When you practicing materialism, the values of capitalism, materialism, that's gonna get you all messed up, man. I don't care who you are, especially if you doing it at an extreme level. Anything you're doing in moderation, you could be all right. But it's hard to stay in moderation with these values of materialism. Now you're out in the world practicing these values, and you get all messed up from them. Then when you go to the church, now the church got spiritual values. Spiritual values are the remedy, the healing to the materialism, to the wounds that the materialism causes. So you can look at it like a boxing match. You go out and the bell ring, and you go out and you doing materialism, you doing capitalism, materialism, and you getting bruises and cuts. Then when the bell ring, that's Sunday. You going to the church. You going to the church, and the pastor is the corner man.
He's the corner man.
And the deacon and the others, the cut man is there. And so they pat you up, heal up your wounds. Then on Monday, that's the bell ringing. You going back out. Round two.
Brother.
And so that's the analogy I make. Go ahead.
Joe Keys, aka Joe Rock. What would be the takeaways, man, today, in terms of these folks that took their time out? And we thank you guys for taking the time out to get some knowledge and of your day that you could have been doing other things. We appreciate you. What were some of the takeaways?
To summarize, okay, so you got oppression. It's important to know oppression and systems. So there's more than 21 systems.
That's astronomical right there, bro.
Systems all have values that we shape values and value systems, which engender belief systems, and beliefs which engender behaviors and attitude. So that's the unconscious process. That's how it happened. That's why all of us have so many of the same characteristics. Then the other thing, so we talked about the materialism and spirituality. These are values that we practice. Then oppression, back on oppression. The battle against oppression is to regain our humanity. Now remember I said materialism, those values are dehumanizing.
Right.
So oppression, the battle against oppression is to regain our humanity, because we lose our humanity in the values of oppression. We lose our humanity in the values of materialism. Oppression is Domination is abuse. So all of us are victims of domination and abuse, and what results from that is pathological behaviors. You have psychopathological behaviors.
Stay with him.
And you have socio-pathological behaviors. So and then oppression, like I said, the battle against it is, the first battle is we're trying to regain our humanity. Malcolm X once said, you can't motivate a sleeping people. If you want to motivate them, first you have to wake them up. You know what he meant? Wake them up to? You have to wake them up to their humanity. There's a very famous book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. I have a whole list of quotes from that book, and I use it in my class to teach my students. All of those quotes is talking about, he said the number one vocation for the student is to become more fully human. So that's battling against oppression. That's what your outcome you're trying to get to become more fully human. Because again, oppression dehumanizes.
So now, I'm sorry, let me just say this. So democracy in Paterson, we would have to be organized to make this happen, because there is none. You see that problem, right?
Yes.
So therefore, you guys get in touch with this professor at your earliest convenience, because he dropped some science, took me to another level. I know a lot of things, but I didn't know Joe Rock, who knocked people bootstraps loose, was that deep, brother. This brother
That's
is
when I was
deep,
dehumanized.
yo.
I was doing that. No reverence for human life.
Yeah,
and systems of
very
oppression
good football player too.
got me there.
So thank you guys once again. But
Yeah, peace out. Come down to the city council meetings at the
City
what we
Hall.
call City Hall.
Yeah,
7
in
o'clock
Paterson.
Tuesday night.
Yeah, remember
Yeah,
you only got 3 minutes on that clock to say what you got to say,
That's
but that's
right.
just to sway you a little. But
Yeah, because we need your contact information. Come on down, give your contact information, because this is a team. We gotta exercise the team concept.
that's the only way to
Got
battle
a whole
oppression,
lot of different positions.
be
Yeah,
organized.
we need a whole lot of different people to play different roles and different positions, and we all have something to contribute. I saw Noon at the mechanic. We shared mechanic.
We didn't plan
Bill.
this.
Shout
We
out
didn't
to
plan
Bill.
this. We didn't plan this.
And while I was there, there was a gentleman. He was 86 years old. His name is Pat, and he said, there's always somebody stronger than you, smarter than you,
That's
tougher
right.
than you.
That's right.
He said, so the wisest thing is to get along. Get along with everybody. And so that's what we need to do. We need to unite, and we need to have as many people playing all the different roles, all the different positions, because we all operate on different levels, and the competition, see, that value, that's part of the problem that keeps us from uniting.
Wow.
And we got to get around that competition and come on and unite. Our only hope, our only chance of defeating oppression is through uniting. And the systems of oppression have successfully made trust very hard to come by.
Right.
Trust is even dangerous in a lot of instances.
Yeah.
But our only chance of conquering oppression is we gotta trust each other and we gotta unite.
My brother Joe Rock, it's a pleasure having you, man. You that dude, man. Always,
appreciate
brother.
the opportunity. I hope people listen and get an understanding of what I mean by bring democracy to Paterson.
Your boy, once again, Noonie Noon signing out. Hug somebody. Check this brother out. He left his information for you. Love you guys. Peace.
Peace.